So, good morning again, everyone, and welcome to this half-day workshop on financial inclusion for business women in Africa. It's a pleasure to welcome all the powerful women in Africa and also men, because gender is first a societal issue, right? So we should not leave our gentlemen behind. So welcome everyone again. My name is Sonia Esokmadje, and I'm the Chief of the Innovative Finance and Capital Market section at ECA. So it's my pleasure to moderate this workshop. We are a bit late, but I'm pretty sure that we'll make it on time. So my colleagues will share the program so that you can follow through the entire half day. We will start with opening remarks. I'm pleased to welcome the Commonwealth Business Women for Africa and also FEWASI, our dear partner in organizing this event. So without further ado, I will just hand over to Mrs. Gozi. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I'm going to come closer. Right. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And CBW Africa, it's good to know who we are at the moment. On behalf of my Vice President, Mrs. Nana Wanjau, and the team of CBW Africa, we are in 25 countries of Africa represented here, including Ethiopia. And we're all here today for this wonderful occasion. We are a dedicated and empowering team. And what we do is to empower women across Africa by providing them the tools and resources they need to achieve success in every aspect of their lives. CBW Africa recognizes the importance of women economic empowerment, which includes women's ability to participate equally in existing markets, have access to and control over productive resources, access to decent work, control over their own time, lives, and also over their own bodies. We also have an increased voice and meaningful participation in economic decision making. Our work as an all-inclusive organization of women in all spheres of our career includes women with disabilities also. We encourage education, especially in understanding how to access capital and the use of technology to encourage financial literacy through training. Understanding financial instability policies, we do it through collaborations with the financial institutions in government, private sector, service providers, and most times in-house roundtable conversation, because in-house we train ourselves. We have women in those careers with very overqualified, and even though underrepresented, we have them in-house to train us. We're very delighted for the opportunity given to us by the UNECA, and we know that at the end of this training, a lot of us will be confident in knowing how to access and use financial products and services to gain financial autonomy and manage crises that affect our lives and businesses. This training will also transform us in the way we perceive ourselves regarding the workplace, money, and how we are perceived. And of course, how we are recognized by others, especially when we have a lot of stereotype bias where it concerns women. So today is a great day for us as CBW Africa Women. We are going to sit down today as one body, united, showcasing our skills and showing that our heritage as African women is our bond. We thank you, Ambassador Aminu Akadiri, the Executive Director, FEWASI, and also the Executive Secretary of African Business Council, who has held us by the hand and brought us to UNECA. We thank Sonia and her able team for this great opportunity. We're not taking it for granted, and we know that when we live here, we will live with you our peace and appreciation, and we'll go out with knowledge and sound mind and out there to showcase what the African woman is made of and what we can do. Thank you very much. My name is Ngozi Oyewale, President, Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gozi. So I will now hand over to Ambassador Amino for his opening welcome remarks, and also, yes, he will then officially launch the workshop. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Sonia. My dear sister, Madam Ngozi Oyewale, President of CBW Africa. All of us here, I would like to, as I stand before you in my double capacity of Executive Director of Africa Business Council and the Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce, I would like to welcome all of you on this meeting on behalf of my President, Dr. Amani Ashfo, President of Africa Union Business Council, and Mr. Fama Touare, President of FEWASI. Our appreciation and gratitude to UNECA Authority for accepting to host this event and giving all facility to exchange with Commonwealth businesswomen on financial inclusion. Recognizing the critical role of private sector in economic growth, job creation, innovation, and financial inclusion in achieving objective of boosting intra-Africa trade, FEWASI and Africa Business Council underscore the necessity of private sector engagement. Let me point out two key areas among this private sector engagement to support financial inclusion, especially for you women. First is promoting economic empowerment. Financial inclusion is not merely a matter of access to finance services. It is catalyst for economic empowerment. Across the African continent, women entrepreneurs play a pivotal role in driving economic growth and development. However, there are often encountered barriers that limit the access to formal finance services. By addressing this barrier and promoting financial inclusion, we can unlock the full potential of African business women, enabling them to thrive, expand their enterprises, and contribute significantly to sustainable development. This workshop aims to increase awareness among business women about the importance of financial inclusion, bridging digital divides, and advocating for policy that promote gender equality in financial services. The second point is the role of technology. In the digital age, technology has emerged as a powerful enabler of financial inclusion. We must embrace innovation in financial services and leverage new technology to ensure that women entrepreneurs can fully participate in economic ecosystem. By harnessing digital platform, mobile banking, and fintech solution, we can overcome geographical limitation, reduce transaction costs, and enhance the efficiency of accessibility of financial service for women. Today's discussion will shed light on the innovation of financial services for women and explore how technology can be leveraged to promote scalability, sustainability, and inclusivity. In conclusion to my remark, financial inclusion for businesswomen is not only a matter of justice, but also a strategic imperative for African economic progress. By empowering women entrepreneurs with access to finance services and leveraging technology, we can create a more inclusive and prosperous future for all. I encourage all participants to actively engage in the discussion, share your insight and experience, and work together toward actionable solutions that will foster financial inclusion and support the economic empowerment of women business group. I wish all of us a good meeting, and on behalf of my two presidents, Dr. Amani and President Famon Toure, I hope I declare this meeting official open. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you, Ambassador Amino. So today's program is a bit dense. What we wanted was basically to showcase that when we talk about financial inclusion, it goes just beyond finance. It has to do with putting in place the right policies. It has to do with leveraging new technologies. It has to do with creating an enabling environment and fostering, education as well. So through the program, we will ask the different experts to share what they are doing and how it can be relevant for CBWA. So this is a conversation. Feel free after each presentation, of course, to engage. We are also keen to understand in your different countries what are the challenges and how we can actually take them into account in our work programs and support African women better. So we have with us Ms. Dagmari Shifea. She is the director of the Innovative Finance Lab. Thank you so much for being with us. So I will give her the floor for a keynote address. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Sonia. So as Sonia mentioned, I'm the director for the Innovative Finance Lab, so I'm representing UNDP's project, and I'll try to explain what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so the Innovative Finance Lab is a joint initiative by UNDP and also the National Bank of Ethiopia. The inception was back in 2022 when the National Bank was targeting to establish the capital market in Ethiopia. So the lab started, or UNDP started supporting the capital market development and establishment initially by providing experts and also financing most of the initial project activities. And so why we were doing it initially, and UNDP's objective in helping establish the capital market is mainly to address a bigger platform create a bigger platform for SMEs and also women and startups within the ecosystem to access finance, right? And so we analyzed two challenges initially, both from the supply side as well as from the demand side. From the supply side, SMEs were not able to access finance, mostly because the banks were not actually providing financing for the SMEs. And imagine women within this where a collateral is a major requirement to access finance. So their ability to access finance, especially for women, was quite limited. We analyzed that there was a $6 billion gap within the supply for finance and the demand from the MSME side. So we saw this was a huge challenge within Ethiopia, and we targeted to address that. And then only 7% of SMEs actually accessed finance from proper banking channels. And so the allocation towards SMEs was just quite limited. That was the main thing that we saw. From the demand side, though, MSMEs were actually not ready to receive financing as well. They actually were not positioning themselves right to even have a competitive advantage, and so they had a lot of technical inabilities with regards to being investment ready, and most of them were actually traditionally managed and run, and so that actually even limited further their ability to access it. And so with this project, we have 4 major pillars that we are working on to address this challenge. The first one being having a technical assistance facility where we try to bring SMEs into that and provide technical assistance to make the investment ready. Mostly it's just to have them have an understanding around what is required and structure their businesses right, and also as an output have a data room where investors and also funders can actually look at. So that's the main part, and we're actually have been testing it for the last 1 year with 100 SMEs. Out of that, we target at least 40% of them to be women-owned businesses. And then the second part is the enterprise financing facility. This is the main aspect that we're trying to leverage as a catalyst within the capital market. So we're trying to set up $100 million fund where it is designed to be actually a fund of funds, where it will enable businesses to access funding from various investors. And we're trying to help build the capital market by investing in new and existing fund managers, as well as directly into the SMEs as well. So both playing a catalytic role as well as a direct financing mechanism. We're hoping this facility will actually have a multiple effect for other fund managers to fundraise from the existing local ecosystem, so we can enable further financing into SMEs, right, into the capital market. The other aspect that we saw was regulations, right? So policy was another limiting factor, both for banking as well as for the capital market to try out new and innovative products. There's a lot of regulation, and with the regulators, there's a lot of skepticism to try out new things, right? So we needed to provide them with a platform to actually test out new regulations in a safe environment where the customers are actually protected and companies can come up with new innovative products to come and test in the sandbox environment. So we just launched this last week, actually. We brought in a company where it's consulting both regulators, both the National Bank of Ethiopia as well as the capital market, to help them test new policy and initiatives within the sandbox environment. And the other part, the last part, is the knowledge sharing part. So for the ecosystem, for the policymakers, for the players within this, and also the users of the capital market, we understand there's a lot of knowledge gap. The Ethiopian capital market, as it is established, is quite new. So people don't know how to use it, how to engage, how to benefit from it, and how to fundraise from it, right? So we are trying to build this awareness and also bring in other ecosystem players within that to have a conducive capital market. So this is what we are doing, just very shortly, just to introduce. And our ultimate objective is that we have an investment readiness within the SMEs, within women-owned businesses, within the ecosystem to receive financing from the capital market. We play a catalytic role by helping build the capital market players from the early stage financing stage, not just the stock market, right? So we need to build the ecosystem underneath by helping build new and existing fund managers to access funding from the local market. So building VCs, venture capitalists, private equity firms within the ecosystem, and then also creating an enabling environment for the regulators with the sandbox approach and creating knowledge overall. Thank you.
So I think we have Ethiopian businesswomen in the room, so they know that this is an initiative that is here to support. You mentioned one of your objectives is to create a fund of fund. Actually, ECA, in collaboration with commercial banks like standard banks and also pension funds, fund managers, created already a fund called African Women Impact Fund. It's also a fund of fund, and I think there is a lot you can do with us, and we can also see how we scale up, because I think there is not enough, finance out there for women. So where there is opportunities for us to tap such, funding pockets, we should just stick together and see how we can, raise awareness around such initiatives. Thank you so much for being with us. So I will now hand over to, since we are talking about financial inclusion, we need to understand exactly what type of solution ECA is also providing. How do we, what is what type of support actually business women can receive from organizations like ECA. So I will ask my dear colleague, Professor Jean-Marc Kilolo, to just explain a bit what he does, because as per my program, he is economist in innovative finance and capital market section. So if we need money, I'm pretty sure he's the guy we should see. So just take a closer look at him and don't let him leave the room without telling you exactly how you can mobilize finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. I think that you have sold me too high. So I think after my presentation, I'll vanish somewhere so that nobody will get grab of me. So thank you very much for the floor and the opportunity to present ECA, especially our section scope of work, and then deep dive on financial solutions relevant for women business. So in a nutshell, I'll present our section. So our section is innovative finance and capital markets. Whose goal is to yes, let me try that. All right, is it better now? Yeah. Yes, so our section mandate is to support African countries in developing domestic financial markets. So I'll skip some of the elements just to be to save some time. So our areas of intervention are debt and financial stability, financial market development, and innovative finance. So we have been assisting several countries in several dimensions. For instance, in Uganda, we assisted the country in developing its strategy to deepen domestic bond market. We believe that it's important to also be able to raise money in local currency to protect economies from exchange rate risks. Here in Ethiopia, our colleague, Mr. Shefero, spoke a bit on the stock exchange. We are assisting also Ethiopia in deepening or developing its stock exchange market. So we have developed together with the stock market authority and the stock exchange a strategy to map out the different steps toward developing the stock exchange. We also build capacity on sovereign credit ratings. As you know, sovereign credit ratings are quite important because they send a signal about the capacity of countries to pay back their debts. So it's very important to build awareness and build capacity. So there is a booming literature about the bias against African economies, but we believe that it's very important for African policymakers to understand what are the underpinnings, the fundamentals that need to be strengthened in order to have a sound policy rating and be able to attract investment. And I think what is most relevant for us today is what we do in the space of innovative finance. In that space, we have intervened in impact investment. I'll be presenting briefly what we have done in Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon as a first test. We have been also, one of the major accomplishments has been to devise a strategy to fund big projects. One of the flagship projects in ECA is the development of the battery and electric vehicle initiative. As you know, Africa is home to strategic critical minerals that play a key role in fighting climate change. But since the colonial time, what we do is only ship raw material abroad without adding value, which means that we are also shipping out good employment and also opportunities to for structural transformation are foregone. And then what ECA is assisting countries such as DRC, Zambia, and Morocco is how will we be able to raise money domestically because we have resources. We should not only rely on foreign money. And discussing with bankers across the continent, we realized that in the specific case of DRC, there is $12 billion dormant in the banking system, which are not used for productive purposes. Now, let me move specifically to the impact investment project that we have undertaken. So far, I have presented like big projects, but to change Africa, we need also to work not only at the macro level, but also at the micro level. How do we impact people? How do we impact populations? How do we make sure that small, medium-sized enterprises have access to finance? So as you see, we intervene at multi-layer levels. So what we have undertaken in collaboration with partners such as FinAfrique is to come up with the concept of inclusive bond. So what is inclusive bond? It consists of a bond issue specifically to finance very small enterprises and informal sector. And we know that in that space, women are a majority. So the issue has the particularity of being oriented to some key sectors like agriculture. And once again, we know that women play a key role, are a very important player in that space. So the idea was to bring together the government of Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon for each country, the international financial institutions, and also the beneficiaries to set up that inclusive bond. So field research has been undertaken with FinAfrique to assess the worthiness of the business, because most of the time bankers will say we have nothing to do with the informal sector because they are not structured, because they are not able to come with balance sheets to assess their creditworthiness. So as Madame Schifero said, so there is need for capacity building. And we held a workshop recently at the beginning of the year in Côte d'Ivoire, where we saw that there is appetite for a range of financial institutions to also operate in that field. But there is a strong need of structuring to assess the creditworthiness of those businesses. So through this inclusive bond, we'll be able to de-risk, to show the financial sector that this is a viable business. So this also built on the experience of macrofinance. 30 years from now, nobody will think that it's a good business to finance through small businesses through microcredits. But thanks to Grameen Bank in India, so this practice has spread out across the continent. And we have seen not only in Africa, but also in Europe. And even traditional commercial banks has entered that space. So the idea is to, for this initiative, is to build on macrofinance practice. They have a long-standing experience in screening and monitoring macrofinance, macro businesses. And we believe that this is a good avenue to make sure that African population, small businesses where women are predominant, will be able to have funding. And as this project include also a capacity building wing, when those women will be properly trained, then they can be formalized and contribute to a large extent to create wealth in Côte d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and we expect to scale up, hopefully, this initiative to the whole continent. Thank you very much.
So for each presentation, I think it would be good also to give the floor to women here so that they can reflect on their own experience. When we talk about financial inclusion, what are those initiatives in your respective countries that have actually worked? What challenges did you encounter? Because we here as technicians, we may think that we know exactly what to do, but that's wrong. We need your input so that we design programs that are impactful, but that also address your needs. So with this first presentation, I just want to give the floor to women here in the room, just to share their experience in your countries. What has been done when we talk about financial inclusion programs, financial education programs? What are the key challenges? So we want to hear from you. Thank you. Please use the black button.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Loretta Ikome. I live here in Addis, but I'm Cameroonian. So I just want to share from CDW. I just want to share my experience from Cameroon as a young university graduate. I started with small businesses, cooking food, selling vegetables. And I wonder, from what the last speaker just said, how does the ECA, how does it come into very small scale businesses like what I was doing, like a young woman? Yes, he mentioned working with the government, but how do they make sure that the government gets to the roots, or let's say to the villages, or down to the very common man or the struggling woman who goes from one market to the other to buy vegetables, to buy food, to buy groceries, and then come and resell? What's the effort that is being made to like form heads, groups that can take care of such? Because these assistants, like he said, it doesn't reach the grassroots, if I must say. Coming from Cameroon, where I'm coming from, we have lots and lots of women who are struggling to feed their families. And if these funds are being made available, even here in Ethiopia, I see women, I see children, girls struggling on the streets. What is the effort? How is it being put into place that we can reach these women on the streets? Because I think if we look at the bigger scale of it, it is better off because the women up there, they have food on their table. How do we reach the woman who comes from the farm with her vegetable to sell? How do we even make it a little bit bigger for her? How do we make it easier for her? How do we give her the financial support? How do we push them? Thank you.
Loretta, please switch off your mic and then we will give the floor to the next lady. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dr. Anira Okogo. I'm from Nigeria. For us in Nigeria, there's a lot of talk on financial inclusion, but just like my colleague said, it doesn't trickle down to the grassroots. And I think there's a gap in financial literacy in the grassroots. Financial literacy in the sense that a lot of people in the grassroots, like the first speaker talked about a lab, the innovation lab, where startups helped to make them bankable. My story was that I used to work in a commercial bank, and I know that for commercial banks, they don't even treat the grassroots at all. So part of what led me to set up a microfinance bank in 2008 to be able to get to the grassroots. But the problem with the microfinance bank in my country, we have a lot of microfinance bank. Funding is a major problem for microfinance bank in Nigeria, and the truth is that one, they also have regulation problems. Policy, there's a gap between policy and the needs of the people at the grassroots. So policy regulation is a problem in that space. Funding is a problem in that space. So we discovered that many of the people we're giving loans to at that time at the grassroots, they didn't know how to also manage those funding. So that's why I think financial literacy is so key, and helping these people keep their books. What the Innovation Lab is doing, one, getting them ready, and also simple financing to be able to manage so that they know the difference between capital, seed capital, and also profit. So they don't go, when you give them funds, they don't begin to delve into the capital as well as the profit to solve other issues. So financial literacy is very key. Funding for microfinance bank. Microfinance bank can actually fill that gap. Funding for them is very key. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Ngozi Oyewole, President, CBW Africa. Talking about financial challenges that women are facing. Actually, it also does not only happen down the ladder of SMEs, it happens up as leadership. So I will be using myself as an example. Starting my business, I walked into the bank, and the bank showed me what they call products that support women in business. And as I walked in, I thought I had everything put together until the man who was meant to see me came wearing his stereotype bias cap. And he said to me, "I thought you are a man." And I said, "Unfortunately not, but fortunately a woman." Then he looked. For everything I had, he felt that being a woman, if you were given money, you may not use it for the purpose for which it is given. I guess he looked at the jewelry I was wearing and thought that was what I would spend the money on, and I passed it back to him. That is also my collateral that I can put down for the business. Another challenge I had was, as the business grew, I utilized the opportunity to take on a loan. But I found that even in the banks, they too, or the financial institutions, they too also have problem understanding their own rules, because I was being charged administrative fees even as I rolled over my facility. When the bank has said, when you take up an administrative fee, it's only once, but they were taking it each time. And when the central bank had a new law put in place, they did not implement it and continued charging me at the initial rate that I was charged. And so it compiled until they said I was owing the bank. Talking about financial literacy, from time, I have always been a student of knowledge, where I encourage women, when you're given anything, no matter how small it is, read it and read the clause. If you don't understand, you go to somebody who can explain it. And I did just that. And I found out that it was not me owing the bank, but the bank owing me. So I was armed with knowledge and went into the loan recovery. When I got there, I met another person wearing another stereotype bias cap, and asked me, "Did you come alone? Did you come with your husband?" I turned around again. I said, "No, I came alone." He saw a man on the queue. He said, "Did that man come with you?" And I said, "No, I came alone for a second time." Then I was taken into a room where everybody seated there were all men and no woman. So you suffer intimidation. But again, unfortunately, I had my confident shoulders sitting on me very well, armed with knowledge, and I faced it squarely. So at some point, they said, "This is what you owe, and we want to advise you on how to pay back." And they said, "Over 36 months. I let them speak. When they finished, I brought up mine. And I said, "At this time, this was the percentage you used. But from your own bank and what the rules of lending, I was told that my administrative fees was one time. But I can see from my statement, each time you roll over, you charge me. Each time you roll over, you charge me. So I would like you to put on your board a column where I have been overcharged." And the music was different. Everybody readjusted themselves because some jobs were going to be on the line. Then at some point again, I pointed out that I know at this time, in this month, the central bank had reviewed loan lending for small businesses. And so this was this, and at this time, over 4 months, you have continued to charge me at the old lending rate. So I think we also have to have a word between the bank and the central bank. And I was said, "Hush, hush, hush." I was hushed at that point, and the music continued to change. I was no longer on that seat. I was on a better seat. I was put on the seat beside them, and no longer on a single seat where I was faced with questions. And so we went on. By the time we calculated over a 12-month period, the bank realized that instead of me, for lack of figure, I would not say the exact figure, but for this purpose, let's say the figure that I was supposed to have owed the bank was 20 million. The bank was owing me 35 million. And so it was no longer them asking me for when spreading the payment, it was me making a demand on the spot. So what I'm trying to say here is understanding the business you're in and understanding what the lending banks are doing, understanding the policies of the government, and when the central bank changes the rules as it affects them. So in my country, there's an effort through SMEDAN, the Small Medium Development Agency of Nigeria. They deal with small businesses. Truthfully, sometimes the policies are made and not totally utilized. Utilized as it is, however, the word is totally. But there's a functioning organization in place in my country that deals with small businesses. We also have the MESME, as in the micro, medium, small enterprises. That is dealt with another body called NACI. So in my country, they have bodies that deal with different levels of businesses as it affects business women. And when I say business women, I say we have great respect as women for whatever we do, from the mesme, as a hairdresser or as a tailor, to up the ladder as a woman in leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name's Engineer Lightness Salema from Tanzania. I'm the country head of CBWA in Tanzania. As CBWA, we've been doing a lot of trainings, but I will cite upon our country. For the financial inclusion, the government has also started to play his part, and they've set aside percent of some fund for women to borrow, so as to, use it for the startup, but also for the growth of the businesses. But the fund, of course, is very limited and is not very easily accessible. And unfortunately, sometimes it lands to people who don't bring it back because it's like a loan. So it has been not very much functional, but it has started to help some of the business people. And apart from that, also banks have tried to set aside, maybe with a small percent, like some of the banks, they've reduced their interest up to somewhere like 6%. Before it was more than that, and it was not very easy even to access. We really had to sit with them, speaking with them regularly, inviting them to our events to make sure that they understand what we are doing, until at some point also with the government intervention, they were able to also set a good interest for the women. But what we realized is that there is no much capacity building and awareness on how to access the funds and to be able to be funded. Not only the collateral part, but also our bookkeeping, for instance. So we started with a sample like 200 women in Tanga. Tanga is one of the region, and about 100 in Mirerani. We sat with them trying to teach them on how to bank each cent they get every day. And we put a competition for women now, to make sure that they bank and withdraw, like that, for the transactions to be seen, because otherwise they will not be able to access any finance. But also we trained them, and we spoke with some banks to make sure that they open accounts. We found there's a lot of women who keeps the money still under the pillow, They don't keep in the bank, or they can walk with the money in their purses, like that. So we started that training, but we have done in a very small part of the whole of Tanzania. And we feel there's a gap which needs more support to ensure that at least we reach maybe 10 million women, for instance. Because we believe women, we speak a lot, We have got that blessing that we have within us to multiply things, even words. So with that power, if we can train, we'll copy each other. If we can train 10 million, it means we have trained the whole nation. To us, that's what we feel. And another thing is we realize that there is a gap on understanding the whole concept of building a business. A business is a whole cycle and the whole chain value. From the day you have an idea, starting to put the plan, first of all, to start dreaming to have a business, because many people, they fail before even starting. So it has been a challenge. People are scared. How can I talk to sell these things? People look at me and say, maybe I'm confused or what. People have got a lot of imaginations. So we had to clear the mindset. So it starts from the dream, mindset building, and then coming down to see how that person can start putting a price of that particular product, because we faced that a woman will take something for $10, will support to add the transport that she's using to deliver, the time she's putting to make that thing. So we found they need the whole set of training, including the bookkeeping, including the compliance with the government, because if you have a business and you have not registered it, it's also a challenge. Yeah, you cannot just do from your own pocket, from this pocket to this pocket, like that, without registering. So we decided to become students, and myself, I took charge 15 years ago. I started learning from the Vital Voices, from the Tony Elumelu Foundation, but also from the American Embassy. They always give free trainings, like online trainings for 12 weeks. So after understanding that all knowledge, then I started passing down to different groups, the widow group, the students group, like that. and other people. Now, I realize such kind of training helps a woman to understand the full picture of what a business is. Because otherwise, a woman can get today $100 and can go really buy a jewels, as other people are saying us that we do that. But we're not doing that because we have got a vision. Because if you put your vision board right, you know you need to build a house of maybe $50,000. How can you eat $100 today? It's not easy. You eat after you've finished your goal. So we started creating also competitions to these women on saving habits. Plus, make sure they fulfill goal. Then we celebrate each goal that they've succeeded. Like if you have bought a car, or if you've bought a land to build a house, we celebrate you. You know, so that kind of things. We felt that it has helped us to also be inclusive, because once you have a property, even if it's a title, it's easy to be also financially, to be bankable and all that. So what I can say is we have started, but it's just a drop on an ocean. It needs a ripple effect to continue building up to all countries and to continue these kind of trainings to ensure that women are become capacitated. They have the capacity to run their businesses with no fear, with no turning back. I laughed one day when I was speaking to one of our sister here in Ethiopia, Madam Tutu. She said, to me, challenges is part of my life. I eat challenges because when I face a challenge, I don't look back. I look forward. It's just like a window of cars, you know, when you're driving. The small windows are always small because they're giving you the back effect. But the big window, the front window, makes you to be focused to see where we are heading. So I think what I can say is with all this, we need to bring in tough-minded women like us, whom we have decided that we're not turning back, we're not quitting. Quitting is not in our vocabulary, but we are moving forward until we see the success that God has installed in us. So we need that thing to be installed to every woman who starts a business, who is in the process of building up a business, until they get that thing, because it becomes contagious eventually when we meet regularly, you know, like that, keep on empowering ourselves together. So this kind of capacity trainings, I believe, once we put that, even if you give somebody even $1,000, they will multiply it into 100 and so forth. Lastly, to conclude, we have listed down projects of women whom they are already trained, they know what they're doing, you know. Those women who are tough-minded, they know exactly, this is where I'm heading, I'll not stop. We have the list of that kind of projects. But there's no funding to access for that, because they are still in the queue. Even some in the banks, they're not giving them. Myself, I struggled to get $20,000 in a bank. I really struggled. And I got the first time last year, you can't believe. I give them this, but still they look at you as if you cannot be able to build that vision that you have because it's too big. Myself, I've started several businesses, but one of the two businesses that I'm building up, which I wanted to go viral, is the fertilizer out of minerals, because I'm into mining. We do value addition, but I want that factory to go and supply the whole of East Africa. I'm also making paints. It's called Star Paint, which can help. Which we use water guard type, which is used in the buildings. And I believe, because I've employed women doing that, I believe that if it is if it gets a proper financing, it can grow and also employ a lot of women for marketing and for the whole chain value of building that business. So we are still looking forward to see how we can be supported in terms of the projects that are viable, that are already in the market. Thank you very much.
Actually, you are doing more than that, because if you look down there, you will find some of, the products that our dear sister, is also designing. So at the end of the workshop, do not leave, just take a closer look, okay? Thank you so much. The first question I will ask Dr. Kilolo, maybe to take that one. How do you make sure that the funds that we mobilize to capital markets, to other financial intermediaries, are actually channeled where they are needed? This is very important. And maybe you can also explain exactly what's the idea behind that inclusive bond. You mentioned studies, but I do believe that it was field missions, like they went and they met with people on the ground, informal NSMA, so that we know exactly what they are doing, what are the challenges, what is their ambition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sonia. I'm very pleased to hear experiences across the continent. This is really insightful and very encouraging. So nashukuru sana. And so let me maybe elaborate a little bit more on what we have been doing. I mentioned those field missions already. So how do we make sure that we reach the targeted people? As you can see here in this graph, I said that this project built on macrofinance expertise. Yeah. And the very institution to issue the inclusive bond will be the macrofinance institution, because they have the know-how. For the last 3 decades, they have built experience. Yeah. And this is very valuable. And as I said in the beginning, financial institutions are very reluctant to lend to people who do not comply to the usual practices. And I think all the people who took the floor mentioned the importance of building capacity, educate women so that they are ready, so they speak the language of those banking financing institutions. So now, how do this inclusive bond is conceptualized? So we had experts going on the ground, assessing the creditworthiness. Yeah, I think the ladies here has explained it. Sometimes people do not know how viable is their business. If they don't know, they cannot make it known to financiers. So they have to know in the first place, and then convince those people to come with a new business model. Here you see groups. So the way macrofinance work is that you have peer collateral. Yeah. So people who work together, they mutualize risk, and then they are able also to screen among themselves who are those women that can pay back. Yeah. So this is the way this thing is set up. So experts went to see those ladies who sell on the market, goat, nyama choma, and all that, to see, okay, this is worth. And then because financials do not know the business, so people are to screen among themselves. And the group of those businesses will designate Madame X is the one to receive the loan for this time, and then be the collateral for that lady. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kilolo. But please, you are now switch off the light. So can you do something about it? So I think Ambassador Amino has a contribution. I will give him the floor. And yes, in a few minutes, within like 2-3 minutes.
No, 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. I believe that this is a women meeting, because that's why you are giving a floor to women to talk. So I want to take it back. No, it's just to give a small comment to the presentation from Doctor about pilot project in Abidjan and Cameroon. We know that we have a very good corridor in West Africa that we call Abidjan-Lagos corridor. That is where you see 1,000 and 1,000 women struggling to do their business. It's not only the financial problem they had, even moving their good, moving themselves along the course is very, very difficult. So having a type of a business capacity training them is very key. And I would like to share with you that we already have the treaty lining Abidjan to Lagos. And also Nigeria and Cameroon has a bilateral agreement. So this project can be under Abidjan, Douala, if I can say like that, corridor supporting women. So I would like to bring this to your attention so that it can be the legal framework to have women supporting them on that corridor, Abidjan, Douala. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And maybe, Dagmarit, I just want you maybe to share Ethiopian, experience regarding the funding issue that our dear sister, just mentioned. And microfinance institutions are very important in the setup. However, they don't have enough funding to support businesses. You mentioned that fund is MFI also part of the solution that you envisage for Ethiopia? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think most of the banking, even high up, are actually facing liquidity issues. So the actual challenge around fundraising is a massive one with the current inflations that we have on board, right? So mobilizing capital and being able to fundraise at the microfinance level, because the banking sector is actually limited to fundraise itself is also another challenge. But for us, with our project, I think our main target is to address the missing middle. Yes, there is a lot of challenge within the micro businesses. We understand that, and there's a lot of work that is being done by UNCDF and the like to increase the financial inclusion. But just with regards to scope and target, we're trying to target the missing middle, which are above the microfinance level, but below the proper banking sector. So those SMEs that have outgrown the microfinance but are not able to actually access finance from the formal banking sector. And so we're trying to diversify funding with different stages, right? So some aspect of it can be addressed with the startup initiatives by having the venture capital funds for those, but then mostly it's for SMEs that are in the growth stage that are a bit bigger than the microfinance. But we understand the challenge with the microfinance funding. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah. Thank you. We have been, indirectly discussing the role of women in global value chains. I have my colleagues, Mr. Komi Tuo. He's a regional program advisor on AFCFTA. So he will be our next speaker. So, sir, tell us exactly how can we empower women so that they can also benefit from that protocol. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, colleague. Thanks, Jean-Marc, and thank you all. So my name is Komi. I am a UNDP regional advisor on FCFTA, but broadly on trade issues. And at UNDP, we have several levels of interventions, whether at the regional level, at the country level, and then I imagine you are working with the country office as well, Ethiopia. But also we have dedicated program at the borderlands level. But I'm going to speak mainly today to the integration, to the work we are doing to support, especially women entrepreneurs to export. And then I was glad to hear our sister from Tanzania aiming to start importing fertilizer to East African market and hopefully beyond that to continental and global market. But now, to start with, I think what we are seeing now is probably the work of the continent toward a bigger market. I don't know how many of you have ever heard the AFCFTA and what is it about. Well, let me be more interactive. Yes, please.
It is the African Free Trade Agreement that was ratified by some countries, not all, but its objective is trying to get, especially African SMEs, that is more than 90% of the businesses in the continent, to be trading with each other instead of looking out. And it is actually also the biggest economic integration bloc by country, even bigger than the EU. So that came into effect, I think 2020, 2020, right? January 1st of 2020. And the initiative is empowering SMEs to be able to have that economic integration and trade with each other with duty-free and other streamlined process.
Good. That's interesting. Yeah. So I think what I always say is we have to know our markets. You have to also know the initiative to be able to really tap into the existing potential. Now, the other issue is you talk about creating this big market for the continent, because currently we know most of our markets are quite small. We only have 4 countries actually with a population with big market, more than 100 million. Only 4 countries in Africa. More than 20 population less than 10 million. And I'm from Togo, and Togo is one of those small economies. But what are the 4 economies today on the continent with population more than 100 million? The big markets. Nigeria, of course. Ethiopia, yes. DRC, Egypt. So these are the 4 with more than 100. So these are big markets. Of course, they're all part of the AFCFTA. And then I'm glad that this is the first time actually Ethiopia is part of a free trade area. But we know the potential of Ethiopia as well, whether it's leather industry, coffee, and so and so. And then we have all the country. But what I want to show here, when we talk about why we need to integrate more the markets, but not only for women entrepreneurs to produce within the continent, but also beyond. We have quickly crafted here is to see how much of items we are importing from global market, from the world, in red, vis-a-vis in blue bars, what's actually coming from within the continent. So you see the gap. I think when we see the fertilizer, for instance, we see the huge gap, despite the continent's potential. A lot of countries actually producing phosphates, but we are not adding value. This is an issue that continues to make us, believe that there is a potential, but we can't just tap into the potential without addressing the current challenges. And financing is one. But what also we believe is that when you have the markets, usually the banks and other financial institutions are likely to provide you with the export trade finance if you can guarantee that you have a market. I was last year I was in Madagascar, and we were discussing with women in textile industry. And what came directly is that those that are exporting, especially under AGOA to the US or other African markets, they don't have issue with the trade, with the finance. They are getting it because they have market. Now, when we look at some products here, some of the items that really make me feel like we need to do more. For instance, when we take the fish value added, we can see a huge gap as well. Currently, we have so many water resources, and we are developing a full program now on blue economy to tap into the fishery, because we see a lot of entrepreneurs with the potential. But again, to ask you, when it comes to the fishery, what are we importing mainly? Why are we having this huge gap? To make it more a bit interactive for the businesses, when we take the fish or value added product from fish, what are we importing mainly as a continent? Why are we having this huge gap in terms of import? What are we importing concretely in the fish industry?
The question is for you, ladies.
Yeah, we understand properly what you are asking.
So the question here is, when we see the graph, I think, where is the fish again? So what we are saying is, we currently have the potential in terms of fish production, right? All the coastal country, from Nigeria to Comoros. But we're still importing heavily fish products. Which type of product are we importing? Which kind of fish? Salmon, for instance? Yes. When you go to the supermarkets, what do you see? Tilapia.
Salmon.
Yes. And then tuna, yes. So tuna, sardine, and others. That's something we need to look into, because we are not adding the value to our fish to be able to process them into sardines and others. So there are huge potential there as well. So this is just to show you how we are still struggling in terms of value addition there, despite the whole potentials. Now, here, just let me show what we have seen also on cocoa, because we produce a lot of cocoa, and I'm sure we all love chocolate. Now, what we are seeing here is actually the value that we are creating in Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon and Ghana compared to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brazil, for instance. From cocoa beans, which is just processing and selling the beans, to going into chocolate. And when you see the graph, I'm not going to be too technical here. This graph is actually showing us where these countries are creating value compared to the length of the color at the bar. You can see in Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and Ghana, the blue bar is the whole bar is mainly blue. So the blue means value is created at the cocoa bean stage, which means most of the country are exporting the cocoa beans. But if you go to Indonesia and Malaysia, I think because these are also developing economies, although they are a bit more advanced, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brazil, you can see that the blue, the part of the blue is very limited. So if those countries are able to add value, why not us? Because we are all part of the developing world. But what also we have seen is that those countries are able to leverage on regional markets before they go into global market, whether it's Asia or Latin America. That's why I guess also we are quite confident that the FCFTA will help us integrate more our market. Now, I like the picture of cocoa butter. Where is it produced?
Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire.
This specific brand, where is it produced?
Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire?
It's an international brand, but where is it produced? Made?
Cote d'Ivoire. US?
No, Fiwasi, you know. Where? Yeah. Fiwasi need to keep quiet because it's from West Africa. Where?
Cote d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire? So one way or another, I think many times entrepreneurs have said this is from Nigeria. Because I think you can easily, you find it on market here in Ethiopia, and it's quite expensive. I think the price is quite, the price can go to 5 times the price in West Africa. Yeah, the fact, of course, tariff. I think when we look at the current tariff is about 30%, but also the cost and so and so. But this product is done in Cote d'Ivoire. Now, why people usually think it's from Nigeria, because everything is in English, because it's cocoa butter. But the market strategy here for the entrepreneurs is really to target the big market. And the big markets in Africa today, they are all Anglophone market, except DRC. So being able to also say, oh, let's put the branding marketing in English will help you target the Anglophone, the big market. And this is also always when I speak to my Francophone entrepreneur, sister entrepreneur, is that if you want to integrate Anglophone market, don't keep writing or your branding into French. So you can have French and English, especially for the continent. So when we are talking also about integrating market, branding, marketing is quite important. And then I know some of you are already positioned themselves on that. But those who want to export more, this is something you need to really consider. Now, on the value chain, so what we are also promoting, and we are also working a lot with our partners, whether ECA and others, is really to take a value chain approach, especially the regional value chain, which means if you are producing and you want to export, don't only aim to solely or integrate the whole value chain. For instance, if you want to produce fertilizers, look into those you can partner with to be able to also not only source the raw materials, but also target market. When you are in Ethiopia, you have leather industry, leather product. Find also partners in other countries that will really help you be able to sell those products. I remember when I was ECA, we brought one entrepreneur in Ethiopia that does leather to South Africa for a week. And in 1 week, she was able to get, I think, an order of 4,000 bags. Which means there is actually a market on the continent, or global market, but we need to have more partnership among businesses. When those businesses that are in Ethiopia, yes, you can also use the opportunity to partner. And so we do believe as a group, you can do more by taking a value chain or regional value chain approach, rather than saying I want to integrate to do everything by myself. So this is something we are also working on. That's why, for instance, when it comes to the informal SMEs, what we are considering and working in some areas is really how do we leverage on existing cooperatives or credit union to be able to supply them with access to with finance. Of course, UNDP, we are not financial institutions. Sometimes we are able to mobilize finances and invest in some entrepreneur, what we call usually champion entrepreneur. And this is something we are doing in some country. So you might also want, when you go back, to reach out to UNDP country offices and see what they have as product. I know, for instance, in Togo, we have been able to identify 35 women entrepreneurs with capacity to export, and we have provided them with seed capital in form of grant, for instance, to be able to export their product, investing in their factory, complying with the the market requirement, with the standard, and so and so. Similar projects as is being also implemented in Malawi and some other countries. So to really integrate the value chain, what I really want here to summarize and say is that we first need to know the market, to know the rules when we want to export. Here again, my focus this morning is really for those who are aiming to export, to understand the rules. What are the conditions? For instance, we talk about the African Continental Free Trade Area, which will help now reduce tariffs on a variety of goods. And we are seeing businesses exporting among some countries, for instance, Rwanda, Ghana, Cameroon, and so on. So, but we want to see more of the intra-African trades. We also do believe that to be able to really produce, get those trade finance, you need to know to do more of market prospection. And I guess any single opportunity is important. When you are in Ethiopia, use the opportunity to see what you can ship into the market, but what you can also bring from the market in terms of import. I know this year we are working with ECA to support a big leather fair in Addis Ababa. So hope some of you might come back to also attend the trade fair and see what can be traded when it comes to the leather specific sector. Of course, we know competitiveness, attractiveness, and so is quite important. That's why I guess also we are working, and of course, ECA is also working a lot on that policy environment to make the policy to work for you. I already talked about the FCFTA, which I do believe we need to take more of regional approach in terms of groupage. For MSMEs also, it's important to leverage on groupage to be able to export, which means you can find, if you want to export leather as small businesses, you need to partner with other leather producers to be able to ship as a group. Of course, trade finance, I think, is something quite important. We need to look into financial literacy of what are those existing items, service of product that help traders in terms of finance. We have also been able to partner with Afrexim Bank, which is I think the largest Pan-African bank that supports export and imports. So what we are doing with them currently is to identify. We have a program called African Buyer Program, where we are identifying those that buy made in African products. Maybe currently they are buying their product from outside the continent. So we are identifying them so that Afrexim Bank can then help them with finance and other market related services. The issue with Afrexim sometimes, because they are the large bank, they focus on a bit medium to large corporation, but we're also trying to see how through their product they can also help those small businesses. But of course, we know the FCFTA is here to help us. We still know some businesses might continue producing within the national markets because of issue of connectivity. Some of them and some of you will leverage on regional market, whether it's EAC as you mentioned, ECOWAS for those in West Africa, although we don't know where if ECOWAS will remain, but the countries will probably remain. The markets are there. The markets are not going to flow the continent, although if some country want to be moved from the ECOWAS, but the economies are there, and of course the big global market. What I always advise, and if business we are working with, is don't aim to start big when it comes to this continental market. Identify 2-3 markets and start with them. You are in Nigeria, maybe beyond the ECOWAS, look into Kenya. I know Kenya, they also want to import more and more for the continent. Ethiopia, DRC maybe to start, Egypt to start with. But of course, I can also warn our Nigerian businesses that everyone is looking at your market because it's a big market. But when you open market, there will be competition. Let's not forget that. We need to increase even our competitiveness, and it's coming also with getting access to low-cost finance to be able to produce. And imagine those businesses. What is also important to know about the FCFTA is that it's not only about prioritizing African investment. You can be investor from anywhere, from China. As far as you are processing significantly the item within the continent, you will also be able to have access. Now, when you go to China, even Europe, the interest rates is as low as 1-2%. So if you get the money there, you come to invest in Africa. So are we able to compete with those, knowing that in some economies the interest rates can go till 20%? So this is an issue we need to all work on. That's why I think the financial inclusion become most important, because increasingly when we integrate our economy, we will be facing competition. What we are doing, again, as UNDP and our partners, is to support market integration, whether through capacity building on various areas of market elements, identification of market opportunities. We are also working a lot to connect women entrepreneurs to the market, through B2Bs and so and so. Last year, I know we have supported B2B between Kenya and Ghana. We even worked with the Ghanaian authority to open a Ghanaian trade house in Kenya, where you will see those items that are produced in Ghana. We have also supported Uganda, Nigeria, and so and so. We support also, dissemination of markets, information, and so and so. And also, we provide financial solutions. As I said, we are not financial institution, but when we mobilize resources, we try to provide grants to MSMEs to help them grow. But of course, the reach will be small because of the funding. But I know there are a lot of also opportunities. Some financial institutions we are speaking to, because they are prioritizing some sectors That's why sometimes they leave other sector besides. I was in Malawi. What's I think the Standard Bank, what they're prioritizing is export of soybean and others. So those are producing soybean will have access to finance. But we know today we have a lot of women entrepreneurs in cosmetics as well, and so and so. But these are areas where we might be seeing a lot of gaps. But I think we can leverage also on crowdfunding, for instance. Because what I've seen is that it's not. I think Jean-Marie, you mentioned that it's not lack of funds of finance in Africa. There's a lot of money, but the money are not going to the right places. So how do we do our scale effort to channel the funding or to bridge the gap with what the continent needs vis-a-vis the finance? So I think I'll just stop here, but hopefully we will have one opportunity to engage. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks a lot for your presentation, Komi. You don't mind switch off your mic?
Thank you very much, Komi. I would like, on behalf of the Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce and Africa Business Council, thanks. I appreciate you for this presentation. We work with UNDP. I think it's time to recognize what they did in the region, especially in value chain. Is something that you women can easily look at, because in each member state you have a UNDP office where we can provide more information, where we are available to provide also information for you. I have to mention that as well that I think last year we were in Kenya, where Summit East is a type of what they are doing between Kenya and Ghana. Is they have many opportunities we can take experience from there. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that elaborate presentation. Two things. One would be, we still, as women SMEs, do not think that the terms of origin of the AFCFTA has been explicit enough to allow clear, clean business across the continent. So unless UNDP is ready to hold us by the hand and show us how to scale through that. In the ECOWAS region, we have there's a scheme, the ETLS. That makes it very easy to trade within the ECOWAS region. Because for us, we would say that is what works, and works even much better than the AFCFTA as it is. We do not think it's still running well. However, we are very proud to say that CBW Africa, we have 25 countries within the network. I'm sure AFCFTA will be more than happy to see that within us, we are practicing what the AFCFTA is about. And so, if we are willing to yield ourselves as a platform to work with you to see how the AFCFTA would be workable. Individually, as business women, it is not working. We have had reasons where a job was given to us in Liberia. We didn't have access. We've had reasons to export to South Africa, no access. The customs do not understand what AFCFTA is even all about. Before you say what they seize your goods or they deport you, they're that violent with how business women are treated. So I don't know if there is an easier way that your organization would use CBW Africa that has women from member states of Africa to showcase what AFCFTA is all about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the very eye-opening presentation. For us in CBW Africa, we took an initiative to set up a trade center. And this trade center, part of what we are grappling with is actually funding to be able to, so that we can trade across the 25 countries of Africa. So funding that trade center is part of the things we're grappling with now, but we are committed to it. So we don't know if that is something you want to look at, because within our group, we have women who have products that are ready for export all over the 25 countries. So if it is something you want to work with us, we'll be more than grateful to look at it. And after is something we are committed to, because we believe that trading within Africa, you also said something about value chain. That is a place where we can disseminate the information that we need to add value to whatever we're doing, so that we can earn more, because that's what I hear you say, earn better income on them. So if you can work with us along those lines, we'll be willing to partner with you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Bemnes Nuguse and I'm from Model Africa Union. So first of all, thank you very much for that insightful presentation. And as a youth-led civil society, we would like to say that we've been actively working on the AFCFTA, engaging youth in various conferences, panel discussions, to let them know and understand what this really is about. Because if we look at the core essence of the African Continental Free Trade Area, it starts from way back from the Abuja Treaty, which is a really, really long time ago. And when we look at it now, it was first introduced to the public officially in 2018 in Rwanda, right? And then it came forward in 2020, and last year the flagship project was the AFCFTA. But I would like to ask how many youths know about this, right? Because we can talk about it. Not every country has ratified it. If we can look at the protocols, such as the Protocol of Free Movement of People, not a lot of countries have ratified this as well. We can maybe have RECs that may be transporting goods, services from one place to another. But how about in terms of a continent? Because this is not something we could just leave to our governments. This is not something we could just leave to the community. This is something that we should take part. So if we just look at when it was introduced into the public in 2018, now we're in 2024, 6 years, I believe. Hopefully that's right. And that's a pretty long time. So how long will it take until it becomes fully in action? So we have to, I would really like to ask if we could maybe have these documents written out in a more clear way so that youth could understand it. Because right now, if it takes 6 years for the full, at least halfway, to reach halfway, how much longer is it going to take? Then the youth are going to be the primary action takers. They're going to be the one that are going to be leading this project. So how much of that do they know, and how much of that will they know in the future? So I would kindly ask if maybe this could be reached to more youth so that we can all create the Africa we want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. I don't know to whom I should be addressing this, but I think it's more with the ECA and not the UNDP. Talking about policy regulations and access, like my president from the CBW has just said. How much access into Ethiopia? This is where I live. I've been years after my degrees, but I can't go into any trade. I'm not able to export. I'm not able to import because of stiff policies that will restrict expatriates or foreigners here in Ethiopia. So I really don't know who is supposed to get to this point of, addressing this issue with the government of Ethiopia. If you look around the town, let us keep women and children aside. You will not see, if there should be, I don't know, we can count in fingers, how many shops or businesses are being run by foreigners here in Ethiopia. So policy regulations that can at least let it loose, release some powers into foreigners who can be at the point of exporting and importing. I'm interested in business, but I can't because the policy does not allow me to. Thank you.
Okay. So, yes, please, madam.
Thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Tutuna Tutu. I am the managing director of Warit. It's a furniture company here in Ethiopia, found over 30 years ago. And I'm a second generation. As a second generation, one of the challenging things that we have encountered is in terms of transforming the company from the first to the second and then going to the third. So we are currently manufacturing furniture here. So I'm not sure if furniture is included in the item list, but part of it has been a challenge for us. We've been trying to mitigate into exporting our furniture products for the past, I would say, almost 6-7 years. We've even tried to look into markets in Sudan and the other neighboring countries. One of the challenges has been logistics. So infrastructure, because when you have like bulk products such as furniture, you cannot just put in a lorry or trying to have it transported to the neighboring countries. So we still have other clients who are interested in Kenya, and also trying to see if we can be able to even go to Nigeria. Why not? But has the agreement taken into account the infrastructure and the logistic challenge that it would come into the operation of the whole process? Thank you.
Oh, we have a gentleman and then the lady. So the gentleman first and then the lady. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the brief of Kwame. I think I want to say, and related to what you said in women and youth protocol, due to that. And I would like to add also how we can localize, because I have seen last year was, Ethiopia is like translating, localizing or domesticating in Amharic, but I don't know other languages, because if we are not localizing with our own language, that means it's not the local one, which is, if you take Ethiopia has a lot language, but let's select some of them, the languages that we are using in the African Union official language, maybe Arabic, Portuguese, and French. So if we are not working on the localizing in our language, so people cannot be understand. So as you see also, the continent has fully 65% or 60% is used that are under 35. So if we're neglecting to this youth perspective and women and youngers, so it's very difficult to achieve the SFTA. So we not to give to most of the time to the policymakers as well as to the governments. So we have also have on to engage them, because unless I can't wait someone to open this door to be in. So what I would like to say, if you look at here, when you and the question that you say, how many people that you know to the SFTA. So most of the people, they don't have a clue, but they have a business. So if you are in a business or if you are in a working an SME, so you should know that things, because it's not like mandate, but you should know what is the continent is going on the local, even where, as you said, there is a border trade. So this comes, it's originally from previously. So there was, there was in Ethiopia, it's called like, I think, what will you call Yechau or something. There was there was a time that we were being using like a money as exchange of goods. So we just came up with the modern ways of cash or something. So we need to have enhance these things, even if all of them are here. Most of them, they are in business and also in the trade and other things. So you should know, you should Google, and so that you can have a better understanding. So if you don't know these things, you may be losing your business, and you may be losing your way of goals of achieving in your business in anything. So I would just to suggest you, since we are domesticating to the UN, the UN agenda 2030, and that's also SFTA is mainly focused with the SCDG 8, 9. That's the decent work. So or job, green jobs as well. So how you suggest to us to work in your office or most of the US agencies also to work with us? Since we are working in many, but we just need to have ideas or documents. It's not money or grants. So how those agencies can support to us, since we are working in the women, since the Agenda 2060 is focusing on the 6 aspiration, women, the youth are the one who's domesticating both the UN as well as to the AC and the Agenda 2063. So if you are not working on us, it's very hard to, we came every time as many policymakers and the UN agencies, or maybe the policymakers of the UN, the AU, people will discuss. So not to be, let's go to the action, and so that how we can, the youth can be most crucial and the weapons of the upcoming agendas of the UN as well as to the ACDG, the Africa Union aspirations. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Stella Mofo. I work for the African Union, Women, Peace and Security. And you may wonder, what has peace and security got to do with it? If you don't have a peaceful environment, a secure environment, you cannot trade. I think the main problem, the African Continental Free Trade, they've got to look at this very well. Free movement. If we don't have free movement in the continent, we cannot have free trade. If we take, for example, the European Economic Area, I live in Europe most of my life. You can leave London, and by midday you are in Paris. And by the end of the day, you go to Cologne, you go to the Netherlands, you go to Belgium, and you be even right up to Russia. But there's got that free area when movements, people can go through. If you see the amount of businesses, the amount of trucks going up and down that area, that is a lot of money moving. And that's how business is being created. If we are in Africa and we are trying to do the free trade and we don't have free movement, all our borders are controlled because every president wants to secure their own environment, then we cannot trade. So before we look into this African continental free trade, I'm begging that we should first look at free movements within the continent. I think border control is where the problem is. That's just a bit I want to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will first give the floor to Komi so that he can, answer some of the questions. And then we have one of our partners here, FSD Ethiopia. I also want to give them the floor so that they can explain what they do. Because what we are doing here is also see how we can have maybe an integrated, agenda around financial inclusion for women. Thank you.
So thanks very much. And to quickly respond to some of the question and comments, to start with the last one, I totally agree. Free movement of people should be, a priority. How can we move goods if we are not able to move ourselves? So that's why I know the protocol also on free movement of people is something we are aiming also to support. We have had engagement with AUC, with IOM. I know IOM is doing a lot. And we do hope that AUC will be able to appoint a champion head of state, because there is no, from my understanding, there is no champion head of state that is championing the free movement of people protocol. When you see the FCFTA, it's true there has been a tremendous momentum, and we got 47 countries that currently are ratified in few years. But I understood that the free movement protocol, only 4 countries actually have ratified it. So I think it's need more work. The linkage between trade and peace, it's quite important. We know, when I spoke recently to some women entrepreneurs that used to be in business in north of Burkina Faso. So with the challenges in north of Burkina Faso, they completely lost everything they had, because they had to relocate in the southern part, including those women that usually deal with millions of francs CFA, which is thousands of USD. Then suddenly they found themselves with the need to restart everything from the southern part of Burkina. And when they go to the bank, and the bank say, okay, because you lose everything, we can start giving you thousands of dollars or millions of CFA. You have to start again from small amounts. They found it actually very difficult. So we know trade, lack of peace is currently frustrating economic and businesses. I think with President Kadri, we were discussing this morning that what the ECOWAS should focus on now is economic integration and business, and in the region. So totally agree. We also have a trade peace portfolio which we can discuss later. So on the partnership, from us, I think the issue raised by our sister, we are happy to partner. Unfortunately, my colleague that leads our women economic employment portfolio at the regional level is not here. She was supposed to be with me, but we are happy to partner. But the issue we are having is that we are getting a lot of requests for partnership, including, for instance, I can name directly 10 women in business association currently with requests on the table. Now, for me, the challenge is, we all know we have limited resources, and although we partner with colleagues, EC and others, my question is it possible for you to partner with some women associations, then we can work together? Because we don't have a lot of money, but we have a lot of requests, so it's easier for us. But I see that an entry point from your end, which is your trade center. So maybe we can have a follow-up meeting with EC and see how we can start with supporting the trade center, maybe toward the end of the year, because we have many requests currently. But frankly speaking, we are happy to partner. On issue around awareness, I think it came from, especially from youth part. This is, I'm not a youth anymore, but it's something we are working on. And I can also link you up with some youth dedicated association that are working on FCFT and youth. We are supporting, a lot of young entrepreneurs and women young entrepreneurs on the continent. We know the gap. The gap still exists. So let's see the integration process. The market is a process. Where if you see the European Union today, they have started quite a long time ago, but they still face some challenges, but they are at that place. So it's a process. So, but you as association of youth, you have roles to play. So how do you build your own capacity to be able to advise? There is no way, we can advise every single entrepreneur. So we have to rely on business association and so and so. So we are happy to also discuss and see. The issue of localizing language, yes, that's why sometimes when we develop those AFCFT or guidelines for businesses, we try to have them in many languages as much as possible. But of course, the reach is still low because of some of the resource constraint. But this is something we are also prioritizing in terms of supporting the AFCFT Secretariat, which is based in Accra, to really support or localize the AFCFT. The logistic, I think, for me, one of the key challenges we are facing now is logistic. We can reduce tariffs. If there is no mean to trade efficiently, we will not see the export picking up. I remember last year there was this woman entrepreneur in Ghana that was able to have a deal of 100,000 USD with an import of honey in Kenya. She was quite very happy about the deal, but then they passed through all the process, certification and others. The last challenge was, how do you move the goods from Ghana to Kenya? They look into the maritime routes, delayed 2-3 months. The importer in Kenya said, no, I can't wait, because imagine if I need stock and I have to wait 2-3 months to get your stock. For kind of those quantity, plane, it's a bit difficult. So now a big issue is we don't have enough sometimes trucks. The competition, the sector, I think ECA did a fantastic job a few years ago in estimating what are current gap when it comes to truck and others. So these are key issues, and I'm sure there are a number of programs, but it's taking time. What we also do believe is, in terms of transportation, first we can start to have kind of maritime routes and transport company. This is not currently, it's very difficult to find direct line between African countries. Fortunately, I think a maritime company was able to open a line between Port of Lome that supply the whole region and Durban in South Africa. But it's not enough. We need more. Among our countries, especially land road as well, it's still very costly. So on infrastructure, I would say we still need work to do, but the demand for data is high on the continent. That's why a lot of countries are still importing from Asia. The demand is huge, but there are also like African development is working really to fund infrastructures, but it will take a bit of time to get there. So yeah, I don't have really a good answer than we are working on it. The continent is working on it, but the infrastructure logistic challenges is quite. So what we are doing or trying to do with my team this year is to try to at least map those infrastructure and logistic solutions that are currently existing, and let's see where we get. But we are happy to engage further, but I will just stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Where? Sorry, I did not see. Oh, yes, please. Just ask your question, then I will give the floor to Fasil.
Can you hear me? All right. My name is Ruth. I'm part of a company called CHS. We're in the healthcare pharma industry. My question is, we've talked about logistics and peace and security, but when we talk about trade, it's not really a game of tariff, but of standardization. And one of the issues that I've seen when looking into trade between, let's say, Ghana and Ethiopia about coffee and cocoa, for example, one of the issue was, okay, you understand, okay, what's the tariff, but then when it comes to certification, what Ethiopia certifies, Ghana do not accept. So this is the main issue. And when we look at pharma, the pharma is even more severe because the regulatories are more stricter. So harmonization is the key. And the second is about SMEs having a role in the policy-making space, meaning because they are engines. If you look at Europe, the small, medium-sized industries are what runs the economy. And in Africa, they don't have the space to even discuss with the policymakers. And they should have a space. And of course, women and SMEs are the biggest in Africa. And we have the numbers. I've done a small paper previously, and it shows that tariff is not the game, but the certification and the standardization, and SMEs have to have the right place for so I don't know how it's been, how do you call it, evolving since the 2020. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your contribution. Fasil, one of our key partners here in Ethiopia. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Sonia. Good late morning, everyone. I hope I'm assuming we're skipping coffee so that we can sit through Power Up and then probably get to lunch. I work for FSD Ethiopia. I lead the capital markets team, or we call it is access to finance. Basically, what we're working is supporting the capital market ecosystem, particularly on the public capital markets. Right now, we're helping develop the regulations with the ECMA. We're helping launch the Ethiopian Securities Exchange. We're helping develop institutional investors like the pension funds. We help them put together an investment strategy to participate in nascent capital market on a securities exchange when launched. We're also supporting potential issuers with a focus starting with state-owned enterprises and thereon on with the private sector. So I lead the capital markets team. We have two other engagements too. There's the financial inclusion. We've been doing a lot of work with the National Bank to develop the national financial inclusion strategy. Now that has been concluded, and then we're working together again to cascade that one down to a regional financial inclusion strategy. That has been going on. And the third type of work that we're also doing, and I'm leading that also, is the climate finance. We all know that Africa in general, and the sub-Saharan Africa and Ethiopia also in particular, is exposed to climate risks. The biggest impact usually lands on the female population. So we're working on to figure out what are the ways that we can participate on the climate mitigation and adaptation strategies on the climate finance. Now, I think the most important project that we launched recently is what we call SAGE. It is what we call a sustaining action through gender equality. Whatever we're working on, be it on the capital markets, access to finance, or be it on financial inclusion, digital financial, or climate finance, we need to ensure that gender equality is being mainstreamed. And I'm glad to hear some of the conversation we've had through the morning is financial literacy is so important, not just like buying and selling and adding up your profits, but also is how to raise funding for your businesses. That's the kind of work we're going to be engaging a lot. Under the SAGE program also is women leadership, mainstreaming women leadership. And I'm glad to see now my colleague Dagmite and then Sonia as well leading those efforts. We need to have more of women in leadership positions. We don't want a situation where you have to go to a bank and have to face with male-centric leadership, but we want to make sure that that has been mainstreamed. These are the work that we're going to be doing a lot more. I'm trying to think through how this conference can benefit is to pinpoint areas where you can also focus on to derive affordable finance to your projects. Climate finance is becoming a lot more important. And when you, whatever business you're in, try to see if you are, or if you could tweak your business in such a way that you're contributing to, greenhouse gas emissions, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. The easier ones to look into is like, are any of your businesses designed to climate adaptation? For instance, sustainable agriculture, irrigation, solar home systems, and even like collecting, cow and dung manures in such a way that, methane is not released to the atmosphere, because now methane apparently is the biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. So we're looking into areas where we can support the ecosystem. We usually work with a market systems approach, and we want to make sure that the system is enabled from regulation to market development to developing the human capital, including women, to be brought into the leadership positions. Maybe like one more thing I'll add to that is there's always this practice of providing grants to businesses. How many of you have received grants? I'm sure quite a few, and everyone wants to be receiving grants. But the problem with grants is that it dislocates the incentives in the market, and it becomes a hindrance to a market systems approach. Now, the biggest problem when it comes to access to finance is a high cost of funding, be it like local currency funding or forex funding. But there are always ways to look into reducing that high cost of funding. And one of the things that we're exploring, try to put together, is what we call a blended finance. So think through it. If a grant were to come and then be used as a support in a blended finance structure and a fund structure, if concessional funding from multinational development MDBs were to come, forex denominated funding were to come in and being layered in, and only after you've had that support at a fund structure, you're able to attract private funding and then use that in a very thoughtful way to, allow investments into women-owned businesses. So this structure is what we call a blended finance. It could be used to launch a gender bond, something that we're working on. It could be used to work to launch a green bond, something we plan to work on. And these are the things that we need to think through on how to make finance accessible to women-owned businesses. So with that, I'll stop here and I will allow for the rest of the discussion to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. There is still a lot to discuss, right? But I want us to move to the next presentation because most of the things we are discussing here, I think, are linked to the two next topics. We have with us our colleague, our dear Dr. Makta Sek. He is the chief of our innovation and technology section. Helen, please do share his presentation. Welcome, Dr. Sek. There is a seat here. I don't know why you want to hide, behind, but basically we had a seat here for you, Dr. Sek. So we have been discussing financial inclusion, and we know one way to reduce the cost is also to leverage new technologies, right? But again, when we say financial inclusion, I think there is a strong component around education, financial literacy, and also speaking the same language with the people we are trying to support is very important. And I'm very happy that our brother there raised that question. Everything should not be in English or in French. We should be able to also engage, our women business entrepreneurs. Oh, sorry, our women in their own, mother tongues. Why not? This is probably the language they use on a daily basis to do business. So I think financial education and also see how we can custom some of our programs so that we address the needs of our women is very important. So thank you, Dr. Sek. So I will give you the floor. Your presentation is here, so please, can we have it on a presentation mode? Actually, it's below.
Good afternoon. No, good morning, and maybe people connect online. I don't know where they are, and I think it is. I follow online. There's a several discussion. The subject is very important to empower women in this world. As you know, women have an important role to play in the world development, such as in Africa. But we are facing several challenges in the continent. You have cultural challenge, you have also challenge on the infrastructure. I will come later, digital literacy. But we have seen since 10 years that digital technology is a useful tool, powerful tools to empower women. Why? Let's go to the first slide, please. Good. No, just one is the second. The first one. Yes, with digital technology, we can develop several digital platforms to use this digital finance. As you know, now we use this mobile money everywhere. We have a fintech platform, and you can, a lot of women develop e-commerce platform, and they use this platform to trade and also to learn. Financial education also for this digital inclusion, finance inclusion. With this digital platform, we can upskilling the knowledge of the woman in several areas. We can use this mobile application. You have too many now in the market, and we can now train women to be very informed on the market, how the structure of the market, how they can sell their product, and what kind of partnership they can build with others inside the country or outside their country or outside the continent. Also, with this digital platform, there is a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurship because we have a new market now, e-market with this digital platform. You can have a company in Addis Ababa. You can sell your product in Ghana, Kenya, elsewhere in Africa, in the world, because now we are in one world with this digital technology. There is no barrier between country. I'm here. I am connected with everywhere in this world. Why we are this digital? It is an open society. Why we talk about open society? But we need to have everybody inclusive in this digital era. Also, we have also this digital platform crowdfunding. You can get credit according to several information you can upload in the system. Means this digital technology provide lot of opportunity to women, but we have several challenges to overcome before. Next slide. First, this gender digital divide. If you want to use this digital platform, digital technology, you need to have access. And in Africa, we have the digital divide compared to other regions. Now we have 37% of our population connected compared to 60% in Europe and other 80% in America. And among these 37%, you have 45% men connected compared to 34% women connected. You have a gap of 11%. And also there is study saying that to bridge the digital divide, we need around 110 years to bridge this digital gap. And we have also studied if we exclude women and girl in the digital technology, country can lose about $1.3 billion to $2.5 billion. What is this shows the importance to connect women and girl in this digital technology. Second, I talk about this cultural norm because they are in several African culture, women are not allowed to have a mobile phone or to use this digital technology or to communicate it. The digital literacy also is very low in this across the woman. And also very important, it is security and data protection. You know, in the cyber security is dumping this Africa GDP. Now cybercrime costs 10% of the Africa GDP. It's a lot. And all the trade in the cybercrime, 40% concern are women. And generally, women doesn't want to talk about the issue they face in the cyber security, cybercrime. Sometimes it is that they don't want to expose themselves because there are a lot of but activity in this digital technology, websites, this internet, this Facebook, and woman doesn't want to talk about, because sometimes the society can have another view of you, and we need a woman to say the problems they are facing in using internet, such as in cyber crime. The regulatory also, if you want to use this digital technology for women inclusion, we need to adapt our regulation, because in several countries, this regulation is not adapted to the emerging technology. If you have this fintech, this mobile money, and now you have a lot of debate in the country, because the regulation was handling by the Minister of Information Technology, or ICT. And when you talk about digital finance, you have the Bank Central and also the Minister of Finance, and we needed to find a way to have a common regulation for all these services who can provide a lot of opportunity for all the continent, because when you build the capacity of the woman in Africa, the woman is the basis of the development. When you, I think in several countries, several culture, the man leaves the house in the morning. And the woman is there to educate the children, to take care to the house. They go into the market to get food, and they are the basis of the development. And why we needed to take a very key priority to integrate, to include women in this digital era. Next slide, please. At ECA, we have several. You have seen this opportunity and the challenge. We have several initiatives. I'm going just to show you some. After I ask my colleague to present some other initiative to empower women in this digital era. Now, it is the West Africa Business Linkage Platform. It is a platform to link all the business entrepreneurship in West Africa, and they can collaborate between them. They can sell their product, and this platform also open access to the new market. In this platform also, they can get, we can train, increase their skills. They can, there is a component of capacity building, and they can increase their skills in several areas. Microfinance, accounting, you have too many areas where they can use to build or to increase or to upskilling their knowledge. Next slide, please. Now, in this platform, we have 137 business for the West African region and 52 organizations. And it is a platform. We can also expand to other regions, because it is leading by my colleague at SRO West Africa. And the idea is this year to expand in North Africa and East Africa. And this platform offers a lot of opportunity for the SMEs. And you can, and now it is a new way, because since COVID, the world become digital. Everything will be in digital now. And this platform, it is a good example how we can trade in this new digital world. And there are a lot of opportunity for women to use this platform, because even if you have a manufacturer, if you have a shop, you can stay too at home and do everything online. Yeah, just you have to take a picture of your product, you put the price, and after you follow up. Even with this platform, you can get loan or credit from financial institution or bank, because we have all information regarding your activity. You can provide all, you can download your information regarding your activity, send to the bank, and and quickly they can do the analysis and tell you if you are going to beneficiary from this request, this loan. Next slide. Another platform also, because we have a lot of leader now in the continent. Yeah, not too many, but we have women leader in the continent. It is something to change the paradigm in this continent. And there is an African Woman Leader Network. This African Woman Leader Network, you have the woman president in Africa, women who have a high responsibility in the continent. And the discussion is online along this platform. They can see what they propose for the government, for the private sector, for the civil society to empower the role of women. Yeah, they have a lot of projects in the agriculture sector, where you have a lot of women on the artisanal sector and other sector and the informal sector. Next slide, please. We have developed this platform for African Women Leader Network. I think they launched last year, and there is one presentation last week during the Eid of State, and I think it is a platform we can help a lot to empower women across the continent, and we'll invite all the women who had higher responsibility in the continent to be part. They have a national chapter, and the headquarters is based in New York. Next. Another initiative for women founder. We have an initiative called Tech Africa Women. It is a program started in 2022, and the objective is to conduct this program by 2025 along in all African countries. We already start by Senegal, Tanzania, Tunisia, Ethiopia. What is this program? Next slide. We work with a company called Betakib, based in Tunisia, to develop to run this program. I told you we start in 2022, and we think we are going to cover all African countries by December 2025 next year. And this program is focused in 3 phases. The first, next slide. The first phase is we are going to do a training. It is just for the woman entrepreneurship. If you have a company in any sector, you can be part on this program. Of course, there is a selection process, and you can go online, you apply, and we select maybe by country 200 or 300 women, and we give them 3-day training, how to improve their knowledge to be competitive in this market, in this digital market, how they can digitalize also their activity, because some women are very strong, but they are not present in the digital era. And we digitalize, we show how we digitalize your activity, and all activity will be online. After, we'll give 2 months for incubation to become a startup in their area. After that, they have to come to present what they learn during this is 3 months, and there is a panel who selected the winner, or the lady who was the winner, the woman who presented very strong proposal, very strong activity on the digital era. If you can sell very well, you show how I'm going to use now this digital technology to sell my product, to get partner. I'm going to organize this. I show you my business plan, and we select the best of them, and we'll give them price, and we'll follow up also, and we'll connect to several network to expand their activity. It is a very interesting program now at ECA, also in Africa, because some women are very happy for this program. Next slide, please. And they open their business in several other countries. When you do in Tunisia, Senegal, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, I don't know if there are some entrepreneurship women in Ethiopia who attended this, but now their activity have been expanded. Yeah, here. Okay, you can. Okay. All right, next slide, please. It is the objective to develop this knowledge among these women to be more competitive in the African market, in the world market. And also, this platform will connect women between women founder in Africa, between them, and also between as a region. For the coffee, so for the coffee production, a lot of women find a partner in Germany, and also as a European country in China. Also, we have one interesting program with I didn't present. I will talk for coffee with Alibaba. We use this world electronic platform to digitalize coffee. We use last 2 years ago we use Ethiopia, and we select three coffee product. It is like Arada, and I think I forget the other one. And there is a process to be to access to the Chinese market, and we work with them for around 6 months, 7 months. And when they meet all the criteria, we organize what calling a selling day. This platform, we have 20 million participants, 20 million, all are professional entrepreneur on this platform. And this company, I think they can tell you, you have seen the news, they sell 10 tons of coffee in 50 seconds. Yeah, this platform. And now you found all these products, Chinese, Ethiopian coffee in Germany, in France, in all over the world, because there is a Chinese company would take it, and after they manufacture it. Yeah, everybody now the Ethiopian cafe across the world. Next slide, please. It is it is the one we organized in Tunisia. They after 3 months training, and we organize the final ceremony with the winner, and they come also with several activities to expand their market, and also several collaboration. Next slide. Okay, we give them they get some money also to improve their business. It is a program I invite you to be part in. And you can get increase your knowledge, you can access to the market, you can expand your activity, but you can get money also. It is something, it is, I think, very, very important. Next slide. Also, when we talk about financial inclusion, I think there is a lot of presentation on the FCTA this morning, and we developed this African Trade Exchange platform. Because we can't talk about trade, what call it AFCTA, without talking about using digital technology to facilitate this trade. And this platform is based on the rule of origin. You don't need to bring your activity, your product from Senegal to another country. Everything will be in the platform. You can use the platform to trade across the continent, everywhere. Yeah. And it is why this FCTA work. Yeah. We want people from Ethiopia to trade with people from South Africa or from North Africa without any barrier. And digital technology is a way to do it. And this platform was very helpful during the Ukraine crisis. All these fertilizers, we use this platform. Yeah, African country get fertilizer from Ukraine, from what call it URSS, also from Egypt, and we have some fertilizer in the continent, also Tanzania, and they put all. We invite them to put in the platform, and why we don't have a lot of problem. Africa doesn't have a lot of problem in the agriculture side during this Ukraine crisis. Next slide. Also, we talk about issue of digital skills to build the capacity of the woman and girl. We start by women from 12 to 40, 12 to 25 years. We have a program called Connect Africa Girl Coding Camp to build the skills of women aged from 12 to 25 years in several areas on digital, following digital on artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 3D printing. Next slide, please. You are all this African in court, the church. I think it is something very interesting for the woman. As of today, 40,000 girls and women are beneficiaries for this program across the continent. After I give the floor, my colleague to go in detail on this program. Next slide, please. We organize in several countries, but they will give you more. She will give you more detail on. Next. Also, we in the capacity building. Also, we needed to build the capacity according to the needs of the digital era. Why we are establishing now a STEAM center in Rwanda, and this it is an African STEAM center to provide opportunity to innovator, such as a woman innovator, as well as to assist in the to promote the collaboration between school in the area of STEAM. And the center also will be located in Rwanda, and it will be open for all African countries. And we expect to integrate this country, this center by end of this year or early next year. We are working hard for that. Next slide. So it's the last one.
It's the last one.
Okay, because it's the reason I don't talk about this artificial intelligence center we established in Congo. I think it's something very interesting for the women to see how they can use artificial intelligence application in their several sector, in agriculture, in financing, in the business sector, in the creative economic. You have too many things you can use with artificial intelligence. And the center is located in Congo, and it is also operational. It will give you the contact, and you can see if you will apply or you will take a training course, and whatever you want, you can get on this South African Intelligence Center. Now, I will ask my colleague to come because but you can come with the coding camp. For 5, you are here.
Yes.
Yeah, for 5 minutes.
2 minutes because we are running out of time.
Okay, there is another one.
Yes, there is one last presentation here with us, but I feel like this topic it could be just an entire how can I say, area for a 1-day workshop or even a 2-day workshop. So, Magda, you share so. I think there is a lot of things that we are doing within ECA. Even myself, I was not aware of everything. You see, so I would then, also, hear from the room. Shouldn't we have like a very dedicated, meeting just to go through everything that ECA can provide in terms of support when we talk about new technologies, financial, and artificial intelligence.
We can if you can organize the program. Okay.
So 2 minutes, my dear.
2 minutes, and after when we talk about this digital technology, also you have an issue of digital ID.
Yep.
And without digital ID, you can't do anything. And we have 500 million people now out with any legal form of identity. And among these 500 million, the majority are women and girls. Why we have a program focused on digital ID. My other colleague will present what use case we developed in Nigeria. In this country, you can go to retirement and you can wait 5-6 years without receiving your payment. And using this database of digital ID, people can get their payment 1 month after retirement. Now, let's go quickly 2 minutes for Connect Africa Girl Coding Camp. If Dobrina is online, also you can give her 2 minutes to just present the use case.
Okay.
And it is something very focused for women also.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Actually, Maktar has given you an overview about the coding camp. Just to provide more insight into it, let me just skip some slides. So this initiative is focused on providing basic foundation or skills or technical knowledge for young girls and women aged 12 to 25 years. So far, it was launched in 2022 in collaboration with ECA, ITU, and UN Women, to be specific. And also, we've been hosting this initiative in 8 countries in collaboration with host governments through Ministry of Education and Ministry of ICTs. So the main goal here is to bridge the gender digital divide and advance ICT skills in Africa. So for this, the relevant SDGs that we target our goal for: quality education, gender equality, women empowerment, and so on, including innovation and industry and economic growth and so on. So this, just to give you a short structure of the workshop, we target 7 to 10 days. It's a tailored boot camp for the girls and the countries, and it targets 100 girls to come from the rural region, 40% from rural region and 60 from urban. And it's a hybrid event, so over 1,000 join online from all over Africa. So we run it in universities because we work with academia. So the training mainly covers technical skills, as Mr. Maktar mentioned earlier. We try to give them basic foundation about website development, Scratch programming, 3D printing, design, robotics, and so on. So on top of that, we only now focus on technical skills. We also give them a chance to know about personal development skills, on how to develop business, on how to present their pitch, on how to speak in public and present their projects and their business ideas. So in addition to this, the training also covers for them to understand or to capture knowledge about awareness on global issues and global sustainable development goals like the Africa Agenda 2063 and so on. So for this year, I'm sure from the discussions that we've had so far, I think we need to give them awareness on AFCFTA and so on. So we give them awareness. So it's a comprehensive training that covers technical skills, personal development, and awareness on global issues. So this coding camp, in addition to the training, it has innovation fair. So the girls, they take training during this coding camps, and they get to develop their projects that focus on social and economic challenges they're facing within their communities. So the innovation fair is for them to present their ideas to the local community and relevant stakeholders and get prizes and have a creative sense of ending after they capture the technical skills. So just to conclude, the initiative pledges to train 100,000 girls until the year 2025, and we hope 40% of those 100,000 girls are inspired and empowered enough to go to STEM fields within the academia and also in their professional career. And 10% of this alumni members also to become entrepreneurs in Africa. So I think this has given you an insight. So my 2 minutes is up. Okay, thank you.
So much. The winner, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to participate in this very important workshop. Can we have the slides? I will be very, very brief. So I want to walk you through a very important use case that our section, Technology Innovation section, developed in collaboration with the Kaduna State government in Nigeria. It centers on digital IDs for retirees. And yes, thank you so much, Bata. So just as Maktar was saying, the importance of digital IDs really cannot be underestimated. In the context of sustainable development and access to financing and financial inclusion in general. It's very important that we accelerate the adoption of foundational identification across the continent in order to allow citizens to fully exercise their rights and be able to effectively participate in social economic activities including voting, taking legal action, receiving government benefits, but also accessing banking and financial services, and the access, uniform access to foundational identification also enables us to fight the gender digital divide. And this important consideration is reflected also in the Sustainable Development Goals through SDG 16.9, which calls for establishing legal identity for all, including birth registration, and the target year for this to happen is 2030. And as Maktar was mentioning, the African continent is way behind, and other developing regions really in their numbers of people who lack identification. And that number for Africa is almost 500 million people who lack foundational identification. We're not talking about digital, we're just talking about actual paper-based digital ID cards, etc. And these people are not registered, in the CRVS systems, which present really huge challenges to them accessing basic public services, and also is a huge impediment to development. So we see digital identification. The adoption of digital identification is an important tool which can accelerate the adoption of official IDs across the continent, because we know through research that almost 26% of unbanked people in low-income countries don't have any form of identification. So it's a huge barrier to financial services, and especially for women, because women are 30% more likely to lack identification than men. And to address this challenge, the ECA, through the Digital Center of Excellence, which was established in 2018, has been trying to accelerate the adoption of digital IDs, and has worked with the African Union and other institutions to harmonize the continental digital ID frameworks and interoperability frameworks. So next slide, Bata. So here, just briefly, we were approached by the Kaduna State government back in 2022 with the request to support them to develop a use case leveraging their digital ID system. And before we decided which case really to take on as the ECA, we did a very thorough assessment in collaboration with the state government, where we identified 14 potential use cases across seven different government entities in the state. And these leverage services spanning from health, education, civil registration services, and social welfare benefits. So it was a wide range of services. And we did this assessment, and then we had a meeting with the governor of the state and a number of other stakeholders to identify which was the best case, which we should
Dobrina,
support.
you have 1 minute left.
Okay, so next, sorry. Thank you. So we identified the Kaduna State Pension Bureau as the use case to be implemented in Nigeria. Basically, the state had 17,000 retirees. So these retirees were required to go physically to a bank, one bank only, within the state, and prove that they're alive in order to receive their pensions. So imagine, for old people, it presented really many challenges of them having every time to go to the bank and prove that they're alive. So what we did is we developed a platform which allowed these retirees to use their phones and their national identification number and their fingerprints, which were scanned with the camera of the phone. So that image was matched to the database that the state had. And this way, they proved that they're alive. This became a virtual verification. And they received their pensions digitally now. So they don't need to go in person to the bank office. And next slide, please. I just want to say that lastly, this was a very successful collaboration between us and the Kaduna State government for several reasons. First, Kaduna State had already digitalized 70% of identification of its population. So 70% of people had digital ID. So that was a huge success factor. Secondly, there was the infrastructure and interoperability systems already existed on the ground. So the systems were communicating with each other. Everything was digitalized. The infrastructure was there. Lastly, the commitment from the government side was very important because all the legislative frameworks were in place and our partners were extremely committed to making this a success. And now what we want to do is we want to take this use case as a success story and scale to other countries as well as other states in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, for the sake of time, I would suggest that we take the last presentation and then we combine the question at the end of that presentation. So we have our colleague Edna. She has been here with us since the beginning of this workshop. Thanks a lot. She works for our Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment section. Some of the participants raised the question around policies and regulations, so I want to give her the floor. My dear, you have 20 minutes, make it sharp, straight to the point, so that we can have a final, round of questions with the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Is it afternoon or yeah? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The beauty about coming last is
yes. Sorry, just Edna. Helen, please do share the presentation.
Yes. So as the present, yeah. So I'll briefly talk about as you indicate here, can the policies and the policy environment, does it matter for financial inclusion? And I think everyone has, in a way, spoken to this earlier on. So mine will be a simple task to just highlight what is the situation, and we will come up with solutions together. So next, I'm not sure if this is very visible, but it's just showing us that everything that we mentioned this morning comes to light. It's true that there is financial exclusion. We see this from if we see the share of sole women entrepreneurs in Africa generally compared to the rest of the world is very low. We're looking at like 25% compared to 75% globally. And when we look at whether they are able to borrow, for example, again, the numbers are quite low. But I'll delve into this also because earlier on, someone spoke about, going to the bank and they're asking you, have you come with your husband? Have you come with, So we can see even from the statistics, it shows that when it comes to, for example, when questions around whether a woman can register a business in the same way as a man, when it comes to Africa, the numbers are lower compared to the rest of the world. So again, we are faced with a lot of norms, cultural norms that we have to deal with, but also the laws and policies. So in the event of these are the policies helping us to combat this. So we'll go to the next slide. Next. It seems is it Sonia will manage it? So for the next slide, it's still really talking to this particular figures to say that maybe I can share from my side. Were you sharing the slide? Next slide, it's not moving.
You're on your end, it's not
working.
Stuck.
And then stop sharing. I will do it. I will do it. Helen, switch off your mic. Thanks.
yes, so that's where I was. To say that for at least 25% of entrepreneurs in Africa, access to capital is still very limited, and we see this from the borrowing rates, which are as low as 0.6% in some countries and as high as 41%, in certain countries like Rwanda. And I'll come back to this when it comes to the policy environment, if that plays a role in supporting that. So we this also helps us explain why we have this gender gap, for example, in women owning business or expanding their own businesses. Next. Yeah, so as this year in 2021 we had this analysis of basically African women's reports that was looking at the digital finance ecosystem, which I think Magda has already spoken to, so I will not dwell into it, but it is available and it's a resource that could be used. It just provides a key pointers, but I think for us, more importantly, it identifies 5 key challenges, which is so the 5 key challenges that really we identify in this report include the enabling environment that we've been talking about. What are the laws, the policies talking about? The financial literacy that I'm sure has come up earlier in the discussion. So how do we improve that? The aspect of facing greater financial exclusion, the cultural norms, and also lower representation in decision making. So those were 5 key areas that we put the report identifies as key challenges from our perspective. And then earlier on, already our colleagues spoke to the low bank accounts. We see that only 3% of women own bank accounts as compared to the men. So this is just to just highlight. Next. I'm just running through because this is these are the challenges that we have. So there are just a few highlights about why we have this financial exclusion. We have a lot of everything else that has already been mentioned, the asset requirements that often women do not have. We have aspects of time constraints, and again, we see that time use, the burden of unpaid care work again is a huge burden in Africa. We see that it's 75% women have to do, and when these are practical realities, when you think about how much time you have to spend, for example, in a bank, putting all together documents, all that. So it's just how do we look at this in a very realistic manner, and also the fact that we do not have the data for available disaggregated data. And all this, we see that there's a role that it plays a role in how planning takes place. So the data I was showing earlier on how women are borrowing, for example. This is, we don't have the latest for it, but how do we plan with such when we cannot have the recent? So, and then for advocacy as associations, these are things that could bring to light. And yes, so in terms of so beyond the digital finance report that we did in 2020, the flagship that we did in 2021, I just wanted to highlight that we have, I think, building on what Komi presented earlier, last year alongside the business forum, the SCFTA business forum, we've had women and youth, like trainings with women and youth on investment and export readiness. So all the aspects that we were highlighting, for example, market research, rules of origin, standardization, all those, and most importantly, how do you attract investment to access new markets or to new value chains. So this was a very practical training that I think could be scaled, and we did this in partnership with the International Trade ITC. So these are also partners that we could look into, and we've also done other skills on digital for upskilling digitally for women and girls to improve their business. I think for me the big question, of course, the big question in the room today is also how do we bridge this demand and supply gaps in financing. And we've all had how you have market and then you cannot find the financing for it. And for us, it's looking at, is the financing available? Is it accessible? Is it affordable? And from a policy perspective, how does that work? Or how do we bridge this gap? So I just highlighted a few things that I thought good practices, I would say, that I have seen over time. So one is through, for example, like national development plans. For example, we've had entrepreneurship funds allocated for women entrepreneurs, noting all the barriers that exist already to their access. So there are some dedicated funds that are integrated into the planning process in some countries. And this is something that, this is also an engagement that as an association, in terms of the development planning process would be useful. And as well as negotiating for some of the emerging grant facilities. I think this is capital. There was someone spoke to the issues of grants earlier, but they also come with a lot of requirements, as we know, in terms of your balance sheets, name them, that you have to prove. Then we've seen in some aspects procurement quotas. I think even at the African Union level, there are quotas that are dedicated to African private sector. But in countries we know, like Kenya, I think they have a 30% procurement for. So these are opportunities, but then how do we then link it to financing and support such? And I think one initiative that I saw, I think for Tanzania, is the NMB Jaziri bonds, gender bonds, that I think attracted about, it surpassed its target basically, because initially they were looking at just $32 million, but it surpassed it by over 10 million. So there is potential in mobilizing financing for women, and this is a good practice. And I think our colleague from Tanzania could, maybe you have already engaged with them, but they could also look at that. We also have, I think, Komi mentioned the FDB and Afri-Exim Bank financing, SME financing facilities. Those are existing, and it of course carries more weight when it is a group, when it's a big association like this one. But also these negotiations need to are very important for us. Then in terms of, I thought there were some opportunities that I thought that exist already, and I'm sure you might know about the Wi-Fi, the African Union, our colleague group African Union is here, so the African Women and Youth Financial and Economic Inclusion Initiative, Wi-Fi 2030, that looks at unlocking $100 billion to 10 million women and youth. So this, I think this is to be applauded. Again, the opportunities with the SCFTA Women and Youth Protocol that is that we know. Again, I think engagements around that are still very much important. So yeah, so I just had so that Wi-Fi initiative has a few pillars that as an association should engage in, and it's important to look into it and see how best. So it looks at all the different players. The last one I'll mention is this initiative with that we see has undertaken with Afrexim Bank and the AU to come up with methodology for data collection for informal cross-border traders. Informal cross-border trade. So I think this is a useful methodology. It has already been not yet adapted, but developed. And we know that majority of the traders, informal cross-border traders, really are women and youth. I'll stop there. I think for me more it's the question of how do we engage better or ensure that we are influencing the right spaces to make sure we have the right policies in place. Because if you told someone in another room you're still facing some of these challenges, they would think it's not happening, but it is happening. So I'll leave it at that. I'll stop here.
So we are almost coming to an end. But before the closing remarks, I thought maybe what we can discuss is what's next. So because we had several presentations, and basically each presentation can be a topic for a one-day workshop, a two-day workshop. When we talk about AFCFTA, there are so many things we need to discuss. Better engage women. Those we aim to impact through those policies, but who probably don't feel sufficiently involved. So I just want to maybe to give you the floor for the next 5 minutes, just to tell us now, ladies, we are here. We have explained what ECA does, what we do in collaboration with partners, because again, I am a strong believer in an integrated approach. Everyone is saying that we don't have enough funding, but we keep using our funding to do basically the same thing. So I think even on our side, it's time to change that dynamic. And that's the reason why we didn't think about this workshop as an ECA workshop. No, this is our workshop. So we can now, discuss concrete recommendations. So in 1 minute each, tell us, how do we move forward? Thank you.
So we just do 1 minute. We do roundtable. We start from here, from the vice president.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Great. I think gender disaggregated data is key to all this financial inclusion, gender equality, because the lack of data is a barrier to financing, to defending your projects or your business, why you want to get into this market. So way forward for me would be to get into research so that we can have gender disaggregated data in different sectors. That way we can be able to defend our ideas, because without that, then we are groping in the dark. Thank you.
Can we invite okay, it's okay. So let's this side, if somebody has something to say as next step, 1 minute, go ahead, please.
It is still a good morning. My name is Meron. I am a human dignity advocate. I can speak on way forward or part of integrated agenda on 2 points. That is, one is on advocacy and one is on policy. For advocacy, we can start. Well, I actually had a more presentation, but I only have 1 minute, so I'll make it short. And I'd like to encourage us to take key messaging, advocacy messaging. Women economic dignity is a human economic dignity. So we can start with human economic dignity basis to address the barriers that we're having where women don't have access to financial systems. Recently, I've been working on women land rights issues that relates to housing and getting loans, having the house as, or the land or the farm as a collateral. There are a lot of problems that come with it. There's a lot of prejudice that we have heard here as well, and so many that we haven't heard. So for that, to begin our work from human economic dignity is very crucial. That is to see all the prejudice and to see all the right that needs to be given to women, not as a favor, but something that should not have not been neglected in the first place. So that is a plea to say that we need to do more on advocacy. On policy, my sister there from Cameroon, who lives in Ethiopia, you live in Ethiopia, so you used to live in Cameroon and you live in Ethiopia, so you're Ethiopian as well. So I mean, from the legal point of view, I know why countries like Ethiopia justify not giving right for those who are not Ethiopian by permit, not to have some type of businesses. It is so that to give the locals a competitiveness, because there are locals who have low financial income who can afford to do only some type of businesses. So they want to leave those businesses only for locals, and they don't want to give it to anyone who does not have a national permit as an Ethiopian. But what I can say is we can advocate as well for a policy for women to be allowed. You know what I mean? When it comes to women, it can be women from Cameroon, it can be from women from anywhere. That should be given access, because we're talking about women anyway. So that's for the policy part that I want to speak about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we won't go through everyone, otherwise we'll have until tomorrow. Okay. So just complement what has already been said, so that we get a maximum number of ideas. Thank you.
Again, Fasil from FSD Ethiopia. I already explained earlier that we follow a market systems approach. We're a firm believer of solving the gender inequality through a market systems approach. And that also is by supporting each of our governments in developing strategies, and not just handing it over to the governments, but also in providing them the resources to execute on those strategies. For instance, the pension fund. There's a lot of money that's been sitting down in the pension fund that's not being deployed into the product sector. It's just the government that's been borrowing and using it. And there's been a willingness to deploy that. So what we do is develop the strategy, help them implement it. In regards to regulation, this is an interesting time in Ethiopian history. Now there's an openness to develop regulations in the capital market space and in several other areas where it's going to be transformative. what we do with that is help them put together a structure. For instance, for a very long time, it was impossible to set up a fund in Ethiopia. But with the Capital Markets Authority, we can now help them put together a regulation or a directive that allows for the setting up of a fund. And that fund can be addressed to address gender, as I said it, like a gender bond earlier on, could be addressed to solve some of the pressing climate change challenges that we have through a green bond. And most importantly, the way I want to cap it is by developing the human capital. How do we develop the human capital is by training, by capacity building, and by teaching, and by also aggregating a lot of information that's out there on the internet into one place and bring it all together and make it accessible. Nowadays, there's a lot of time that has been spent in accessing the information, but a lot of financial literacy type of education videos and programs are out there on the internet that can be aggregated to be put into a better use. A very important thing that's been said, and I cannot even agree more, and then would not want to emphasize, is that there's got to be a lot more coordination. With the limited resources that we have, we have to sit down and understand who is doing what and what that limited resource has been used to what initiatives and projects, and how can we best collaborate and coordinate in such a way there's not going to be any duplication. If we can't do that, we can't expect our governments to do that. On the topic of liberalization, opening up, we always talk about like opening up and liberalization. The next concept that follows from that is regional integration. A lot has been said that. We need to champion the regional integration aspect of it. There's quite a few businesses in Ethiopia that import from West Africa and face enormous hurdles, where we're not able to do it, but somehow trade with Asia and trade with the rest of the world has been open for Africans, and that needs to be pressed on. And with that, I'll just wrap up my, yeah.
So, I think what we can also we can ask women to share, the ideas per email. We have a small, box there. Please drop your business card so that we keep in touch. This is just the first meeting. So I want us to close. I want us to eat, drink, network a bit before everyone, go back to its own occupation, right? So maybe let me suggest that we take the closing remarks. We go for a group photo. But before you leave the room, please drop your business card, and I will do it first, okay? I will give the floor to Miss Gozi for her closing remarks in 2 minutes, my dear. This is a challenge for you, I know, but you can make it.
Yes, I wanted to give it to my, so you're going to give me 2 minutes and give my vice president 1 minute, if it's okay. Please, yes. And we're like Siamese twins. When we go outside and we're to lead, we have to lead as one team. So thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure to be here, and there's a lot to take away. However, a lot has been said. We're very grateful to all the people who have said. I enjoyed what the bank said. I also enjoyed what the AFCFTA man said. He didn't answer all my questions. He owes me more answers than he has given me. I enjoyed what Dr. Sek has said, because he has actually done his own in black and white by promising, and he has delivered. So, and also Fewasi promised, Fewasi delivered. Sonia, where you have promised, and we know you will deliver, because you're a woman sitting with us in the same pain as we are in. Half a second. The other 1.5 seconds is the way forward. What are the measures to close the gender gap by supporting the inclusion of financially excluded women? I think that's one of the major things that we will drop behind here, so that that recommendation be put forward. Secondly, we would want support development of women-led businesses through their access and use of financial services. Funding, a lot of big ideas and lack of fundings. So it's important that there has to be some form of full support given to them, or a better education on how to ask without looking like a charity case. So because that discourages women from coming forward to ask. It has nothing to do with culture. It has to do with personality and bruising the woman's ego. It's already a tough terrain for the woman, and then a double jeopardy when you go to ask and you get turned down. And so thirdly, a product designed for women, it makes it much easier. When those products are designed for women, then the projects are attached. When the projects are there, women now go through a list to say, okay, for instance, me as president of CBW Africa, I'm a manufacturer of office furniture. So we deal with wood. Then we look at the barriers that the raw materials we face. We look at what is being done for us. How do we carry on with standardization of our wood in that industry? It makes it easier. We have to stop. We'll work with, if government or bodies like UNECA that is willing, that has made this possible, it's a fantastic forum, would work with us to tell the government to look for ways to block out exportation of raw materials. When you export raw materials to places like China, they now and then on processed wood, they process it, they build it, and they bring it back to us to buy. Now there's a ban. Okay, no more bringing in of any thing outside. How do you encourage a woman in this industry who suffers a lot of stereotype bias? How do you encourage her to be more sustainable in her business, especially when you are in what you call a male-dominated industry like carpentry? So these are one of the major things, or it's a lot of it. The barriers are too many. The final barrier would ask is to join hands with us women, SMEs, women in leadership across board, empower us, hold us in your hands, and show us a way out of all the barriers, which include doing business within Africa, encouraging us to how do we get the foreign exchange to carry on. Not all the materials needed for production within Africa is done in Africa. So we also, in some ways, rely on things we do not manufacture in our countries. So we go back to the banks to make life easier for us to raise from M or from A or whatever name they call the forms, to raise foreign exchange, to bring in goods or those things or those materials that we do not manufacture. And then, does he have time? On this note, I have been uncomfortably said to stop, but even as it is, I must say a big thank you for the opportunity given to us to march in here as women, as youths. We didn't come alone. We came as CBW Africa, and because it's a Pan-African organization, we went through Ethiopia to be grateful to the women of Ethiopia, and we said, in your land, we were given this opportunity, come with us. So we came with other women, and we came with the youth who are the future. And so today, here they are. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And the biggest thank you to Fewasi, who is the aircraft that brought us in here. Ambassador Aminu Akadiri is our aeroplane 001 to UNECA office. Thank you very much. Could you please give my
Madam Gozi, no one can stop you. I know that.
Please give my
1 minute, 1 minute. I think the best way to say thank you to the organizers of this event is to show that we have gone away with something. So that it's not in vain that we came here the whole morning, they organized, and we left with nothing. So I want to call on Tutu, Ruth, and tell us, what are you going away with? No, that's my thank you. That's my thank you. What are you going away with?
A lot of opportunities and also a lot of challenge to tackle.
Thank you, thank you. Just one more. Ladies, what are you going away with?
That UNECA is here to support us all the way, and we're willing to work with them. Thank you.
Last one.
I've learned what the UNDP is doing, so I know actually there are things that are being done. So I'm encouraged. I'm happy.
So it was worth it. We want to thank you for gathering us here. And I want to congratulate the ladies here and the gentlemen who've taken the time to come and learn personal development. There is so much information that came through today that I am sure I'm not the only one who left with, a file of things that I need to even go and research on more. So, but this is the only way we can get forward. Keep putting ourselves into these rooms, into these conversations. The young lady there talked about after and said, the youth are even wondering what is this after thing. But I'm glad you are here because I'm sure you got something, and we'll keep bringing in the youth into these rooms. So thank you so much, Madam Moderator, Ambassador, Dr. Sek, and all the great presenters and speakers we had today. We thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All this would not have been possible without the support of our director, our acting director, Mr. Robert Lisinge, who is here with us. So, and he's also giving the closing remarks. And I want to thank him because in every initiative that we have started within this section, he's always here to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I feel a bit different. In many meetings that we go, we see by far more men than women. Today there are more women for a change, and it's a good thing. Yes, distinguished delegates, dear experts, participants, ladies and gentlemen. I think I have been here for just like 10 minutes, but I've seen a lot of energy and optimism in this room, and I believe that that is a good thing. I would like to thank you all for attending this half-day workshop on the financial inclusion of businesswomen across the African continent, as part of a fruitful collaboration between the Federation of West African Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the Commonwealth Business Women for Africa, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, access to financial services is crucial for women entrepreneurs in Africa. It directly impacts development, poverty reduction, decent work, and gender equality. Despite its importance, financial access remains limited for many. The link between women's economic empowerment and achieving sustainable development goals is well established. However, attention to financial services in women's entrepreneurship development strategies needs improvement. Financial inclusion is also a crucial factor in reducing poverty and promoting prosperity. It refers to the ability of individuals and businesses to access a wide range of affordable, useful, and tailored financial products and services from reliable and responsible providers. Dear participants, ECA has been working with member states and partners to address the challenges of financial inclusion for businesswomen in Africa, as shown by the various presentations made by my colleagues here today. Your presence here illustrates that financial inclusion for women is at the heart of development finance issues and crucial in accomplishing the 2030 agenda. Your interactive discussions and valuable feedback on this topic have been very useful. I hope you all have a great takeaway from this workshop. I think we just had the takeaways from about 3 women, and that you live motivated and determined to achieve our common goal. I wish you all best of luck in future endeavors and hope we can come together and collaborate wonderfully again. I think you can count on ECA as your partner. I thank you.
Please, we are going for a group photo outside. Everyone, remember to drop your business card in the small box before you leave. Thank you.
In-person meeting and another meeting that's another she can't do anything at it because I have to stay out and work the documents and everything.
ከቤት ትሰራላችሁ አንዳንድ ነገር አለ።
Yeah, on those days, every summer is coming back to in person, like it should be.
ትሰሪያለሽ በቤትሽ ኮንፈርት ከዛ ደግሞ ትመጫለሽ
because this is in person.
አይዞህ
We're done for the day. Nice to meet you. Where do you work?
እኔ እንትን ነኝ yes
Oh, you feel
okay.
I'm good. How are you? Yeah. I didn't bring my cat. I didn't make one. Okay. Yeah. With yours, I will send you. You want carry bag? Yeah, but I don't want carry bag. I don't want to carry bag. Me too. I mean, I know what. There's something in my bag that I don't want to eat. Yes. Come back. I just want to. I'll zip it and then I keep it down here. I don't want to carry the bag. I don't zip it. Keep it there.